Canadians gear up to celebrate tonight for New Year's. They can do so knowing they're about to have a little more money in their pockets.
In 2005, I came to this very store and promised Canadians that a new Conservative government would cut the GST from 7 to 6 to 5%.
The Prime Minister returned to that same electronics store today where he first announced the GST cut, which will translate into $6 billion in tax relief for Canadians. Harper also said he hopes the Canadian economy will maintain its brisk pace through the new year, but just in case, he will not be toying with any more taxes in 2008. He told Canadians not to expect any cuts in the short term. Now, for reaction to all this, we're joined by John Williamson, the Federal Director of the Canadian Taxpayer Federation. John, you know, an awful lot of people say, what's the point? 1%? I mean, it's just not very much money for the average Canadian.
Well, that's not quite true. These cuts are beginning to add up. You take the 2 points combined, that's returning about $10 to $12 billion to consumers every single year. And for your typical household across the country, the combined saving is between $300 and $400 a year. So it's a welcome tax cut, and it's one that I think most Canadians recognize is going to be helpful. And I think more importantly than that, because the economic can be questioned, but it's one that that was important because the government promised they would cut the tax to 5%, and now they've done so.
But no more cuts coming this year.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. I think there's some political posturing going on here. Stephen Harper, as a fiscal conservative, knows that if in fact the economy is going to slow, the best thing he could do would actually be to cut personal income tax rates. So I think what's happening by these comments is they're trying to mute out debate as to what the next round of tax relief should look like. Don't forget, before the economic update this fall, the Finance Minister and the Prime Minister out saying don't expect any tax cuts in that document. And of course, that's the document that cut the GST / business taxes and also delivered some personal income tax relief. So I'm anticipating a little more personal income tax relief in the 2008 budget.
But when you say it looks like the government's trying to mute debate, at the same time the government is in sync with most economists who think the American economy is slowing down, which will ultimately mean our economy slows down.
Oh, sure. No, I don't take issue with that. And you see south of the border, actually, U.S. states are now trimming spending. The same should be happening here in the federal government. If we're going into rougher times, slow federal spending, get rid of some of the wasteful spending, focus on priority areas, but also lower taxes. If Ottawa has less cash next year, it's because Canadians are earning less money and businesses are earning less money. This money doesn't just fall out of the air. So the best thing the government could do would be to lower the personal income tax bite on individuals and families next year.
Now, it's not really politically palatable in this country, but I take it you support cutting those income taxes for upper and middle income Canadians because it's good for everybody.
That's where we have to go next. In fact, when you hear economists say the government should have cut income taxes instead of the GST, what they're talking about is also cutting the top rates. Those are the rates we have to get down if we want to keep this economy moving, if we want to improve our productivity, if we want to reverse the brain drain and keep more people here and attract people here. So that's exactly where we need to go. And look, it's not politically impossible to do. In 2000, the then Liberal government cut income tax rates up and down the income ladder. And in fact, the Liberal proposal in the last election campaign was also to cut those top rates. So we're saying to the Finance Minister, if he's not prepared to be bold on this file, well, then maybe he should consider just implementing the Liberal tax relief package that the Liberal Party campaigned on in the 2005 campaign.
Yeah. I want to ask you, many other economists, though, say cutting the GST is bad policy for a bunch of reasons. One, it makes very little difference to most average, like lower middle average Canadians. It costs the government a bundle, and it disproportionately benefits the wealthy who make those big, expensive purchases.
Yeah, no, that's not true. Look, it's not great policy, but it's hardly what I would call bad policy. You have a tax that is coming down and at least $10 million going to consumers. And look, when the GST was implemented in the early 1990s, economists were saying it was a harmful tax on the poor because it disproportionately hit them. That is true, actually. So now to turn around and say somehow cutting the GST is not going to help the poor is absurd logic, and it's not good economics as well. In fact, as a proportion of income, a GST cut benefits low-income Canadians the most.
John Williamson, nice to see you again, sir. Happy New Year to you.
You too. Thank you very much.